Hello everyone, welcome back to our live session. So, there are three C's in life: choice, chance, and change. And you must take the choice to take the chance if you want anything in life to change. Well, today our live session is all about chances you have to take to make the changes in conversation in your life. And this conversation today is with Dr. Varun Dixit, cosmetic and plastic surgeon. So I hope your questions are ready. Thank you everyone who have already sent in their questions, and we are all set to ask them to Dr. Varun. Hello Abhin. So let's see if Doctor is here. Doctor is right here. So let's. Hello Rajesh. I am Rahul Raj Mishra. Thank you. Hello Dr. Joe. Hello Doctor.
Hi, good evening.
Good evening. How are you?
Hello.
Hello. Can
Yeah,
you hear me?
yeah, I can hear you loud and clear.
Even I can hear you loud and clear. So let's get started.
Yes, sure thing.
How have you been? How is lockdown going?
I'm sorry, your voice is not coming in very clearly. Just one second. Can you just repeat that?
I said, how are you doing? How's lockdown going on?
Oh, all well, all well. So far, so good. Starting work gradually, with a little bit of a kind of a trickle that has started, and hopefully we should get going and in a full swing pretty soon. But we obviously have over, so we all have to be careful about things.
So we have a lot of questions. We're going to try and ask you as many as we can today. So
Sure thing.
the first question that a lot of people have asked is, what are the commonest cosmetic surgery procedures done by you?
Well, cosmetic surgery procedures per se in my practice, I think the commonest ones that I'm doing, the top five, if I were to rank them that way, would be tummy tuck, then liposuctions, then I would say nose surgeries, rhinoplasties, uh, and then for guys, gynecomastia surgeries, and in for ladies breast surgeries, so that may be breast augmentation, breast reduction, or breast lift, so depends. So these would be probably the top five ranking surgeries that I do in my practice.
So do men also come for cosmetic surgery? Because you just mentioned
Oh,
a few top five surgeries.
yes, of course. Because yeah. I mean, it's kind of a myth that people feel that cosmetic surgery is mainly for women. Men are no less, and in fact, why should they be? So there are, I think, quite a few men do come in for cosmetic surgeries to me. Almost about 30 to 40% of my patients would be guys. And for guys, I think the most common surgeries that I do, one, like what I've already mentioned, is gynecomastia surgeries, hair transplants, and the other thing would be liposuction for their tummies. Because guys, I think the tummy fat is quite stubborn and
Yeah.
just doesn't respond to any amount of exercise and dieting. So guys are quite keen for their tummies to be fixed.
So is cosmetic surgery safe?
Uh, now this I like to tell all my patients, it's like crossing the road. So if you're, yeah, so I mean, with regards to cosmetic surgery or any surgery being safe, I explain this thing to all my patients that cosmetic surgery is like crossing a road. So if you're crossing a small lane, you just look a little left and right and you're safe enough to cross. But if you're trying to cross a freeway, you probably are expecting trouble and are running in for some trouble there. So that's the same thing with cosmetic surgery. It depends on what and how much you're planning to do. So if you're planning to do two or three cosmetic surgeries combined all in one go, you're asking for trouble. So there could be more risks that and more complications that may happen. The other important thing would be that the patient should be healthy enough. So that doesn't mean that a patient who has diabetes or hypertension cannot undergo cosmetic surgery. So as long as these conditions are well controlled, then the patients can undergo surgery, cosmetic surgery procedures. I think what is most important, however, is that patients must realize that they must choose the right doctor. So there are a lot of doctors who are really not qualified to do cosmetic surgery and do plastic surgery procedures. So choosing the right doctor who's qualified to do the procedure is important. And at the same time, doing it in the right setup, that is in a proper hospital setup, is equally important.
So, at what age can a person undergo cosmetic surgery?
So, since cosmetic surgery is as such an elective and a planned procedure, so obviously a consent is required, and therefore legally 18 years is the bare minimum. Furthermore, since cosmetic surgery is something that is very patient driven, uh, I generally discourage patients when they are below 18 years of age, so that at least let them be legally in a position to take their own decisions. And they should have that level of maturity to decide what is good for them and not. There are some instances wherein I have done some surgeries, especially like a gynecomastia surgery, wherein an occasional patient, young teenage boy who's got quite a prominent, as they call them, man boobs, is kind of teased in school or college and is facing a lot of stress because of that. They're quite depressed at times. So those kind of patients, after a proper discussion with their parents, I do go ahead with surgery for such patients. But otherwise, for most other procedures, I would say after 18.
Okay, and also, like, since we're talking about liposuction surgery and all, what are the results permanent?
Liposuction surgery results, for that matter, per se, cannot be permanent. It is the body weight and body fat is a dynamic process and a tissue in the body. So if the person doesn't get a grip on their lifestyle, their fat can come back. The good thing is that most of the patients who undergo liposuction, if they're rightly motivated for the procedure, then they do maintain and do things so as to maintain their lifestyle to a healthy level. And that means just simply doing some regular exercises, eating the right kind of food stuff, not overindulging in the high calorie food stuff and things like that. And they can maintain their results lifelong. But
Okay.
doing a liposuction doesn't give them the license to just, indulge in any kind of food stuff, don't do exercises and things like that. That weight is going to come back. The weird thing that happens, and this is what quite a few patients, in fact, tell me, that they've got a liposuction done somewhere else. Let's say a lady gets a lipotummy done somewhere, and then she doesn't maintain her lifestyle because that has not been stressed and informed to her. She starts putting on weight, and then all that weight starts showing on the thighs. So what happens is, if you do a liposuction in one area and if the patient puts on weight, the weight tends to show more in the non-liposuction areas.
Okay.
So therefore, it is important that patients realize it's not a license for them to eat and stop exercising. They have to still maintain it. So if they maintain it, it can be permanent.
Okay, this is quite intriguing that if you've done liposuction in one area and you don't maintain a lifestyle, you might just get disformated.
Yes. So it is kind of scary. So people need to realize this. Cosmetic surgery is glamorous. There's a lot of glamour associated with it. But at the same time, there are a lot of myths also. So a lot of patients come thinking that, okay, they've got it done once and then they're fixed for life. That's not how it actually works.
Like you just said that it is a glamorous thing when, like, and especially today, the way the trend is going. But you also mentioned that there are a lot of myths. So the first 5 myths that come to your mind that, constantly your patients have come up with.
The commonest myth is, one is liposuction being permanent. Okay, so that's like, we've already dispelled that now. The second myth would be, I don't want scars. Now, what people need to realize is, as human beings, our skin is such that if there is a cut through the full thickness of your skin, you are going to have a scar. The trick with cosmetic surgery and plastic surgery is to make the scar as less visible as possible. So none of the plastic surgeons are trained at Hogwarts. Okay, so we all go to a medical school. We don't go to Hogwarts. We don't learn magic. So some scar is inevitable. So they have to be prepared to accept that, but we place it such that it is well hidden, and in due process of healing and everything, it is less and less visible. Okay. So that's the second myth, so to say. I think the third commonest myth would be, I think we already kind of said about, people wanting a lot of things at the same time. So they feel, oh, it's just a simple procedure. So they feel, okay, let's just get it done. I'll take chutti from office for 2 days, and I'll get my tummy tuck done, and I'll get my lipo thighs done, and I'll get my nose job done, and I'll be all sorted. That's not how it is. These are all surgical procedures. There is a healing process that you have to go through. There is a rest period, and the result takes some time to show up. So patients need to understand that. The other thing, I think, a common myth about any of these procedures, especially, let's say, a typical example would be for a breast augmentation surgery, wherein people do implants and get implants to enhance the breast. They feel that, oh, this is associated with breast cancer. Okay, so now that is not true at all. That's another very common myth that I come across. The fear of breast cancer because of silicone implant has been completely thrown out of the window now. There is really no association with it. A woman may have a certain level of risk for breast cancer because of whatever is the family history and lifestyle and things. That risk remains the same. It doesn't change. Okay, so that is pretty much the same whether the lady gets a breast augmentation done or doesn't get it done. Okay. The other commonest myth is, because the fifth one, so to say, because I do a lot of nose surgeries, is the fact that they feel that a nose surgery would almost always look fake.
Okay.
Okay, so that's another concern that they have. Then they feel that, oh, I don't want to get it done because I'm worried that it will look very fake. So that's a fair enough justified concern, because if it is done with the wrong plan, and if you don't understand what the basic nose structure is on the patient to start off with, the entire plan can go awry, and you can end up with a very artificial kind of a result. So especially Indian faces tend to be a little more heavier faces or a little more broader faces. So very thin, narrow nose and a very pointy nose, like a European, would look very artificial on the face. So as long as that is understood and the plastic surgeon or the cosmetic surgeon is doing these things regularly, patients don't have to worry about it.
Okay, like 5 myths, and we've noted all the 5 myths for now.
Yeah.
So, doctor, also, since we were talking about liposuction surgery, somebody also questioned, can liposuction treat cellulite?
Yeah, I know that's like a real bane for a lot of. So liposuction may not be able to treat cellulite. It can help to improve it. So what people need to understand is what actually is cellulite. Just excess fat deposition there. There is some amount of what is called as tissue dehydration, which leads to the phenomenon and the appearance of a cellulite. So in most of these cases, if there's not a lot of bulk, just a cellulite appearance on the thighs, which is where generally occurs, they can improve it to a large extent with some regular massages, proper hydration, proper diet, and things like that. So if there is bulk, however, and if the thigh is already quite bulky, then doing a liposuction would reduce the bulk, at the same time would help to improve the appearance on the thigh from the cellulite point. It may not treat it, to answer your question, it may not treat it 100%, but it would improve it for sure.
Improve it. What is the difference between liposuction and tummy tuck?
Another favorite question. A lot of patients, they come in, the lady's had like 2 kids, she's got a lot of loose hanging skin on the tummy, and then they come to me saying, okay, doc, I want a liposuction. And I'm like, no, hold on, you probably need a tummy tuck. And they're like, no, but that's the same, right? So that's not how it is. Just to put it very simplistically, liposuction is, if you were to imagine a balloon full of air, liposuction is simply removing the air. So we just doing whatever is the excess inside, that is fat in liposuction. Okay, whereas in a tummy tuck is geared for patients who not only have excess fat, but the main issue there is a lot of loose skin, a lot of extra skin, and which is what happens typically in women who have probably had kids or maybe have had twins and things like that. Nowadays, we are also seeing a lot of it with patients because they have either done diet exercise and lost weight, and then they have a lot of loose hanging skin on their tummy, or some patients who've undergone bariatric surgeries and have lost a lot of their excess weight, and then they have a lot of loose hanging skin. So it is that loose extra skin which is tackled is makes it a tummy tuck procedure.
Okay.
A tummy tuck procedure may involve some amount of liposuction, because the liposuction would be used to remove some of the excess fat from, let's say, the upper tummy and the flanks and things. But essentially, a tummy tuck would involve cutting off some of the skin and tightening up the
Okay.
whole area. Whereas a liposuction would only remove the inner fat that is excess. It wouldn't do anything to the extra skin.
Okay, so like you just mentioned that, the tummy tuck is also done after a bariatric surgery and all of that. So do people combine both of them at the same?
No, you can. You wouldn't be able to combine bariatric surgery with
Okay.
a tummy
Tummy
tuck
tuck.
or a surgery, because after bariatric surgery, I don't do bariatric surgery, but I
Yeah.
deal with a lot of patients who've already had a bariatric surgery. So what happens is the patients lose that excess weight that they have after a bariatric surgery over a period of about 1 year. So
Okay.
cosmetic surgeons who are doing, and this is one of the newest branches, so to say, of cosmetic surgery, that is body contouring after massive weight loss. So
Okay.
cosmetic surgeons who are doing these kind of procedures regularly would wait for at least 1 year after a bariatric surgery, so that the weight has kind of stabilized, and then the patient can be kind of taken in for any of these body contouring surgeries, where the abdominal excess skin may be tightened, the thigh can be tightened, arms can be tightened, breast lift can be done. So all those things can be done sequentially in these patients, but it would be recommended that they wait for at least 1 year.
Okay. Works 15 is asking, does the fat come back post liposuction? If yes, how long does it take for it to come back?
Like what we said, see, it can come back, but it's not necessary that it will always come back. There's no real time duration by which it will come back. What is important for them to realize is liposuction is just a way to reduce the excess fat from a particular area on the body. So we are just contouring that area. If they don't maintain a healthy lifestyle, as in proper diet and a regular form of exercise in some form, then fat can come back, and it will show in other areas first, not in the liposuction area. Okay? So liposuction per se can be permanent if you maintain a healthy lifestyle. So it is important that both those points need to be accepted, understood, and followed.
Okay. So everyone, I hope you all have understood it is supposed to be maintained. It is not some magic. Okay, doctor. So lately
Absolutely.
there's a lot of confusion also between Botox and fillers. So if you could enlighten us with Botox versus fillers.
This is another common thing. So you have to understand is both of these are common used on the face, and I guess that is why there is this confusion. But Botox is primarily a medicine which is used to make the muscle sluggish, or if I may use a strong word, but don't get worried and scared of it, it kind of weakens up the muscle there. Okay, so a typical example would be these forehead lines are because of the muscle that acts out here.
Okay.
So the muscle that lifts up my eyebrow, because it's moving the eyebrow, it's making up these lines. These lines, which are called as dynamics, will be improved or can be improved with Botox. because it's acting on the muscle, it makes the muscle sluggish, and therefore it doesn't make these lines to show up so much. Whereas there are some patients who, let's say on the frown area, because they're constantly frowning, or as they're reading or working, they have this habit of frowning. They have what is called as a static line. So you have a deep groove out here. Now that static line needs a filler to improve the static line. So a line that is fixed needs something like a filler, because a filler is basically just filling it up, as the word says. It's like the potholes on the road being filled up during the rains.
Okay.
So it's pretty much like that, and it acts only for about a year or so time. Okay, so that is important. With Botox, it's mainly acting on the muscle. So if it is a muscle that is causing the line, Botox works here. Botox works for the frown line, which is, so in my case, if I didn't want these lines, I don't have a groove here fixed. So, but if I don't want this line to show even when I'm frowning, I would do a Botox. At the same time, to kind of reduce these crow's feet lines, I would do Botox, because this is because of a muscle there. So that's where Botox, the filler would be mainly to fill up grooves. So if I wanted to fill up this area, I would use fillers.
Okay.
Or if I wanted to improve my tear trough area, I would use fillers and things like that.
So what happens when you stop Botox or fillers? Do you age faster or you start looking older is a question that's come up to us.
Yeah, that's another very pertinent point. Actually, what happens is you don't really accelerate the aging process. The aging process is going to go on at its own pace. What happens is, like what I mentioned, fillers works for 1 year.
Okay.
And Botox generally remains effective for about 4 to 6 months. Okay, average about, let's say, 6 months also. So a patient who's regularly doing Botox and fillers, what is happening with them is that they are seeing a face with lesser lines, lesser wrinkles, a more taut face for that 6 months to a year's time. When the effect of that filler or Botox wears off, they start seeing those lines back again there. So quite often what happens is that the memory is so selective that they forget how it was looking before, and then they feel, oh, suddenly now my face has aged a lot. So we are not stopping the aging process. The aging process is going to go on at its own pace. So we are just kind of hiding and covering up some of the marks of aging.
Okay.
But as the effect wears off, those marks will come forward, along with the fact that you have aged 1 more year.
True.
So the patient needs to understand that. So therefore, it is important that they realize this and then go in for these kind of treatments.
So like you just said that, everything needs a maintenance. So if a person does a liposuction, can he repeat it because they've not maintained their lifestyle for the same area if they've put on?
Yeah. Again, a very important question. So a liposuction, a redo liposuction as we call it, can be done. And we do it quite routinely, because unfortunately quite a few people, their lifestyles are such that they cannot maintain it. But what patients need to understand is that the risk, whatever is the risk that is associated with liposuction, is almost doubled with a redo liposuction.
Okay.
So the risks are higher, because the important thing here is that liposuction essentially is like what we would call it as a blind process, because we are not really cutting open things and seeing inside and removing the fat. We're just making a small hole. Through that, we put in a specific instrument and suck out the fat. It's more of judgment. So once a liposuction is done with time, but even then the inside tissues don't become completely supple, so to say. There is some amount of scarring as a part of healing process. So going back into a scarred fat tissue makes it that much more dicey. So a redo liposuction, the common issues with it would be there's always tends to be more bruising.
Okay.
There's more risk for irregularities. So in a first time liposuction, I can almost kind of assure the patient that, okay, don't worry, we'll keep it smooth, and you'll have a nice smooth contour in most of the cases at least. But in a redo case, that would be a little more difficult to promise because the scar tissue doesn't really kind of respond very well to liposuction. So it's always better. So what I tell my patients is that please don't think that you can always come back and get a liposuction. Okay, so please maintain your lifestyle. Please do some regular exercise and some form of diet control, at least so that you don't overindulge in your high calorie food stuff, so that you can enjoy your results lifelong.
Also, like maintenance is required for other things also. So for Botox and fillers, do they have to come back for consultation to know that, so what is the duration that they should come back for a consultation?
Yes. So Botox, typically the effect lasts for 6 months, like what I said, and fillers is generally for about 1 year. The exception there would be in some cases when they do a filler to enhance the lips. The lip fillers tends to get absorbed off a little faster because the lip is a very mobile structure. So in some cases, even by around 6 or 8 months, may kind of get dissolved and absorbed off. So then they may need to come back at that interval and get it done again. Another interesting use of Botox is to kind of make the lower jaw look narrower. So a lot of
Okay.
so in a guy maybe a broad jaw, lower jaw may be acceptable enough, but in quite a few guys also do come in nowadays for that. But most women want it to be a little more narrower because they want a more oval outline to their face. So those kind of areas, if they do it repeatedly after every 6 months for 3 or 4 times, the muscle itself becomes quite shrunken and therefore it
Okay.
looks and the result lasts longer. So they do need some maintenance. So it's nothing is a permanent fix, but it's at about 6 months to 1 yearly interval. At the same time, there are some patients who just get it done for a specific purpose. So let's say there's some wedding in the family, or someone may have a shoot or something, and they got it done. If they don't have any commitments like that, again, so some patients they just skip it until something similar props up again.
So do you hear this often from people like, मुझे ये actress जैसा jaw चाहिए या मुझे ये actress जैसा nose चाहिए?
Yes, yes, and those are the scary patients. So I think there's enough data on this that amongst cosmetic surgeons at least, we call these patients or these kind of demands when patients make as the alarm signals or the danger patients, so to say. So we are often advised and told not to operate such patients because they'll never be happy. That's how life is, however, and so we have to accept it and move on. So we do get a lot of patients coming with saying, I want this kind of a nose, or I want this kind of a jaw, I want this kind of a forehead. So those kind of do come in. But what patients have to understand is that the photograph that they're showing me is a face which probably started off as a particular something, or maybe that person had it naturally also. And the patient who's come to me doesn't have that kind of basic infrastructure. So, see, cosmetic surgery, we can only add or remove or modify the existing structure. We don't want to completely dismantle everything and then make the whole thing. So that would probably happen only in Hogwarts, but not out here. So we need to work and modify what is already there. So a nose, what is there, I can modify to some extent to the whatever is possible. Similarly with the jawline or with the cheekbone and things like that. So to a certain extent, yes, possible, but it generally raises my alarm bells. They start ringing when a patient comes like that.
Okay. Also, a question that was asked is, has anyone come with a pic of Michael Jackson and said, "Give me something like this to you"?
Not yet, thankfully. That would be a nightmare. But yeah, Michael Jackson does get mentioned quite frequently during discussions for a nose surgery. But most of the times, I guess people are more worried that they shouldn't end up like that than wanting something like that. I'm probably lucky enough that nobody's come asking for something like that so far.
Okay, also in like I wouldn't want to be biased, but a lot of ladies go through a lot of fat problems, especially the north side. So have they come up to you saying that they want to do a liposuction because they need to lose weight before getting pregnant or something, and would that be advisable?
Um, of two. Uh, I would generally recommend that they do some diet exercise and try and lose some weight. If it is not working, then we can do something about it. But what these patients in general need to understand is that liposuction is not a losing mechanism. And this is very important. Liposuction is a body contouring surgery. So liposuction can be used to shape the body in certain areas at a time where the shape is not as per what the patient wants. So if the fat is excess in a particular area, liposuction works best there. Okay, it's because we remove, let's say, 5 or 6 liters of fat at a time. We may end up, the patient may end up losing some 4 or 5 kgs because of the liposuction. But that's not the primary goal. The primary goal is to shape the body. For weight loss, there's mainly two things. One is bariatric surgery,
Okay.
which is generally meant for patients who are excessively, or as they call it, severely obese or morbidly obese. And the second thing, which also almost always works, in fact, works more effectively than bariatric surgery, is diet and exercise.
Again, a healthy lifestyle.
Yes.
So,
So that's like, you're going to hear me repeat that again and again out here.
I think it is perfect because that is something that should have been highlighted. Like if I could highlight it and put it besides our title that a healthy lifestyle is important, I would have highlighted it or stand like that with a board.
Yeah, stand with a placard out there as a disclaimer.
Yeah, like
You can
healthy
do cosmetics.
lifestyle.
Yes, but you need to maintain your lifestyle.
Or like you said, that it's no magic. I'll do it, but post that, maintain it with a healthy
You have
lifestyle.
to maintain it. Absolutely. Yeah,
So
I think I'll
there
take
is
up that and I'll put up a board outside my clinic now.
make a change, but also maintain a
Maintain a
lifestyle.
lifestyle. Yes.
So
I'll
I
make the
think
change, but you need to maintain it.
so we've got our tagline down after the make a
Absolutely.
change.
Yeah, I'll get rid of the tagline which says enhancing confidence with cosmetic surgery and I'll put this.
Okay. So
Yeah.
doctor, there's also a lot of stigma attached to cosmetic surgery. Like, people are worried that they will be labeled as fake. And so how do you address that issue?
Yeah. So I think again, this is a problem because there have been some horror stories in the past. Maybe a decade back or so, a lot of these cosmetic surgeries were being done, but were not completely understood. The implications of them, the effects of them, were not completely understood. So a lot of those results in the past used to be a little excessive or too unnatural looking and things like that. But now I think cosmetic surgery is a lot more refined, and cosmetic surgeons are also more dedicated to particular areas. So cosmetic surgeons have their niche areas. So someone may be focusing mainly on hair, someone may be doing mainly nose or facial surgeries, someone may be doing mainly breast surgeries and things like that, or body contouring surgeries. So there they have achieved a certain level of finesse, understanding of the tissues and the way the body functions, that we can give good natural looking results. So patients need not worry about the fake look as long as they're going to the proper doctor. So this brings me back to the point that please choose your cosmetic surgeon carefully. Don't just go by flashy hoardings and marketing things. Uh, Please check the credentials of the cosmetic surgeon that you're going to, and only then decide to go in with any cosmetic surgery procedure with the so-called cosmetic surgeon.
Also, is plastic surgery or cosmetic surgery linked to low self-esteem?
Yes, I see a lot of patients coming in this way. So I've had some instances where guys, especially young boys, coming in with gynecomastias, they just don't make eye contact with me before surgery. So they are always like constantly looking down, and they're just nodding their head or this way or that way, and responding to my questions. And a lot of these guys after surgery, they are so very confident. In fact, I have so many guys who've come to me saying that, young guys especially, who come to me saying, doc, I want to wear a t-shirt. I'm not able to wear a t-shirt because of this problem. So these patients, once surgery is done and everything has healed up and they're looking really nice there on that part, they come in so happily with their t-shirt, and they're like, hey, doc, thank you very much. You did this for me, and I always wanted to do this, and I finally got them. So it is good. So they do have self-esteem issues, insecurities, and things like that. So it's important that I kind of identify these issues. Some of them I know, if they are motivated themselves, are good enough, are good patients to deal with, but some of them are being coerced into surgery, or being forced into surgery by someone else who's in their family or something like that, because they feel like this will kind of help them to look better. So let's say I mean, maybe for a job prospect or a marital prospect and things like that. So those are patients who I would myself refuse to do surgeries, because they're not ideal patients. They're not going to be happy with what is going to be done for them. But coming back to the self-esteem issue, a lot of these patients do have these problems. They have their insecurities. A lot of these patients, therefore, come with very unrealistic expectations. So these are patients that I need to, therefore, I always, during my consultation, I ask them as to why they're getting this surgery done. So understanding the motivation behind it is very important. If they are doing it for the right reasons, it's all good, end up being happy patients. But if they're doing it for the wrong reason, then it can be a problem. So self-esteem can be an issue, but if they understand that, they're accepting it and they're clear about it, then fair enough. I can still do cosmetic surgery and help them improve their self-esteem. Because apart from the inner beauty, I think to some extent that outer beauty also counts in today's world.
Yeah, because you actually see the person first time. It's only later that you know the
Yes.
person, and the journey
Yeah.
starts later.
Absolutely.
Uh,
Yeah.
Also, Pieces and Poems is asking what type of patients go in for bariatric surgery versus liposuction?
Yeah, that's a very good question. Because bariatric surgery is specifically meant as a weight losing mechanism. So that needs to be done by specific people, and by patients who are what we call as morbidly obese or severely obese. For that, there is I mean, it's not really the latest concept, but a simple way to deal with it, or to decide, would be to do something what is called as calculate something called as body mass index, which you can do even on your mobile. You get these various apps, which is a ratio of your weight and your height. And if your body mass index is above a figure called, that is, it's calculated as a ratio. So if it is above 40, then you're definitely a candidate for bariatric surgery. But if your body mass index is below 35, I think me as a cosmetic surgeon can help you better. So you're better off with liposuction and things like that. If you observed, I've left that zone between 35 and 40 there. That's the gray zone. So these patients need to be assessed. So obese and their BMI is between 35 and 40. But if they are a diabetic, or if they have any other hormonal issues, they will be better served with bariatric surgery, because bariatric surgery also helps kind of improving the diabetes condition. Similarly, if the patient's lifestyle is such that regular exercises just won't happen, then
That
bariatric
she met
surgery
you,
may
you
be a
helped her a
little
lot,
more suitable.
and should never forget that.
Pardon?
Uh, so when you explained, a lot of people are saying thank you for the lovely explanation, and
Oh, okay. Lovely.
also that you're doing a great job by giving such a valuable advice and steering in the whole conversation. So thank you, doctor, for all the explanations. But we still have a lot of questions, so we are not going to let you go.
Fire away. Fire
And
away.
also, my next question to you is cosmetic surgery feeds on, like we discussed, people's insecurities. How do you justify cosmetic surgery?
See, like what we were just discussing, it's like the inner beauty is what everybody is, talking about. That you need to be focused more on that as to what kind of a person you are and things like that. But outer beauty is important. Sometimes that outer beauty may not be up to the mark as per the patient himself or herself. So I'm not being judgmental here. So I always tell patients, I mean, they come and they sit in front of me in the clinic and they tell me like, doc, what do you think is wrong with my face? And I'm like, according to me, there's nothing wrong. You're just absolutely fine. You tell me what you perceive is amiss or something that you would like to change or improve on your face, then, or body for that matter. That is where then I can help you. Okay, so it's basically I'm just trying to fix up something which is probably acting as a stumbling block in their own minds, so that it's not letting them be their 100% best. So there's a lot of these people in today's world who find something that is needs a little fixing up, uh, and therefore there I can come and help them get that fixed up, so that they don't have to hold back themselves, and they can just give their 100% whatever they want to do.
So lately, doctor, cosmetic surgery suddenly very popular. So what's your
Yes,
take on this?
thankfully, I'm not complaining. Obviously, COVID has made a mess of the whole thing for everybody in all walks of life, all over the world. But
Including
yeah, I
all.
think including us, yes. But yes, I think cosmetic surgery is popular mainly because I think, see, like all over the world, I think India is also now reached a stage where I think people are not just looking about quantity, so to say, about with respect to their life, but also quality. So I have a lot of patients who are in their 60s and things 60s, 70s, and who are like, doc, no, but I'm still active, and these people are all active. They're probably playing some sport, and they're going mountain climbing, and
Wow.
they're running the marathon. So they're like really the new 40, so to say. So they feel that young. So if they want to look as well that young, so what's the harm?
So if a person is not prepared for cosmetic surgery but wants improvement, any non-surgical techniques?
Yes, in fact, that is again a very, very large part of cosmetic surgery, not just surgery, but the cosmetic practice, so to say, because a lot of them are not really prepared for surgery. I mean, there are obviously some concerns that patients have, or they may not have time. Once I explain to them that, hey, you get a tummy tuck done, you need to be taking things easy for at least 2 weeks and things like that, then they're like, oh, okay, hold on, I won't be able to do this thing now. Or let's say I tell them after a tape on your nose for 2 weeks, they're like, I don't have holiday for that long. So then I think non-surgical stuff do come in very handy. But what patients have to realize is it has a certain limitation. It has a certain, only a certain group of patients would benefit with non-surgical stuff. So since I mentioned about the nose, if it's already a big nose, fillers and things won't help. But if it's a nose that is already, let's say, slumped down and is less prominent, I can definitely add fillers and make it a little more prominent nose. Or if there's a little deviation or a little indentation, I can do some fillers and help that. So that can be done in the clinic itself, and they're sorted like a quick fix. Similarly, non-surgical stuff, otherwise, let's say for liposuction, because that's another common thing that patients are looking for. There are a lot of devices that are available now which would help to reduce fat in certain areas. Um, Unfortunately, I'm not a big fan of these because they don't work for very large areas and they don't work in the long run. They're good enough for small areas like a double chin or a little fat on the arms that is there and things like that. It works well. And if the patient was also looking for something as a short-term fix, so let's say they've got a shoot coming up or they've got a function in the family and they want to look their 100% best, then that's good enough. But otherwise, I think surgery is pretty much something that will give them a much more longer lasting thing. But these machines are being used for for reducing fat in certain areas in a non-surgical manner. So it's good enough as long as the patient understands. So if the patient goes with the expectation that this is going to work like a liposuction, that's not going to be the case. The patient's always going to get disappointed with the whole thing. So that is important for them to understand. The other important, very large area for non-surgical things would be on the face to rejuvenate the face. So as
Okay.
what we would call it as an anti-aging process or procedures. Here now, most patients are scared of doing what we call as a facelift or blepharoplasty and things like that. So there, some judicious use of fillers and Botox can help them pull on for a little longer so
Okay.
that they can possibly avoid surgery. But there too, patients must understand that there is a threshold to which this will work. If the patient is maybe 40s, 50s, and just early signs of aging, Botox and fillers would really work wonders for them. But if they're already in their 60s and they've got a lot of loose hanging skin there, Botox and fillers are going to be a complete waste of money. So that is where a good cosmetic surgeon should be able to advise them rightly. That yes, okay, you have this option as a non-surgical option which can do this much, but your face requires a surgery, then you rather wait and do it at a later stage.
Uh, Also, somebody's just question us, Baldo Dash is asking, is there some sort of cosmetic surgery for acne?
For fresh acne, if the patient is already having boils or pimples, so to say, there's no surgery really. They need they need to get in touch with a good dermatologist or a skin specialist who will be able to help them. They are doing certain things like, I mean, these are kind of newer things that are coming up. So they do some amount of Botox and some amount of steroid injection into these areas so as to reduce the scarring process. But even when the fresh acne are there, a cosmetic surgeon comes in once the acne have resolved and the residual scar is there. So it's the scarring for the scarring process and for the improving that mark is where cosmetic surgeons come in. But that role also has been reduced to a very large extent from the surgical point of view. There's very limited role thanks to lasers that are available now. So laser does help to improve a lot of these scars in a very dramatic way.
Okay. Also, Bhatija Bharti is asking, what about thread lifting? What about
Yes,
thread?
yeah. In fact, I missed out mentioning that to during
Thank
the
you,
facial
Shalini,
week.
for this question.
Thank you. Yes. Uh, See, thread lifting again is a good tool, but works for very few set of patients. Generally speaking, Indian skin are a lot thicker than European skin. The facial bulk that we have on our
We kind of
face.
lost you. Could you? We kind of
Okay,
lost you. I think you were buffering. So if you could just start again. Thread lifting.
I'll just start off again. Yeah. So thread lifting is a good tool, but it works for only a select set of patients. Okay. So if the patient has most Indian faces generally tend to have thicker skin than European or Caucasian skin, and they tend to have a little more facial bulk than Caucasians. So the thread does not have that much strength to hold it up and keep the thing lifted for a sufficient length of time. So therefore, I'm not a big fan of thread lifts. I've done them, and I've most of the patients have ended being a little unhappy in the long run. The threads don't come in very cheap. They are a costly affair. And if the result lasts for barely 3 or 6 months, it's no fun. So that's when the patients start getting disgruntled.
Okay,
And
so now Khadija is asking us, do you recommend one should take a collagen powder?
this collagen powder and all these kind of supplements, so to say, for the skin, are more in the domain of skin specialists
Okay.
and those people. So I would focus mainly on the surgical part of it. But yeah,
Uh,
there's a lot of buzz about these things. There's a lot of buzz about various medicines that they can take or apply and things like that. So similarly for hair, there's a whole lot of kind of new medicines and newer molecules that are coming up for improving hair, improving skin. But I think it's best that I leave it to the dermatologist colleagues of mine.
Okay, so doctor, since we were talking about face rejuvenation, what about women that are 60 plus? Are they like, are these options available for them?
I'm sorry, I lost you there. If you could repeat that
I said
question,
since
please.
we were talking about face rejuvenation uh, right now, so what about women that are 60 plus? Are these options available for them?
Someone who's, let's say, 60 plus, I would say, as a general rule, very unlikely to be a suitable candidate for just Botox fillers and threads and things like that. In all likelihood, they would require a lift or an eyelid procedure because they may have a lot of loose skin on the eyelid and a puffiness on the eyelid and things like that. So I think a simple way to say that, where surgery would be required would be to see how much is the aging in this area of your face. So
Okay.
if, and when I say this area of your face, what you need to look for is that groove that develops here. So once that groove is developed and the jowls are formed, okay, so that means that these tissues have all sagged down. They are not tight enough to hold things up there. So no amount of how much filler you put in there, it's not going to be able to hold it. Having said that, there are a lot of people who do fillers and things like that to get that fixed. But then I think they need to be prepared to have that little artificial look of this area looking too puffed up and bloated up.
Okay. Since we are talking about injectables and all of it, nowadays injectables are available everywhere. In fact, in salons at times are doing it. So what are your thoughts on injectables being so widely available?
Mm, yeah, okay, very contentious issue. Uh, I would say a very strong no. In fact, I think some of these companies have, in fact, stopped supplying it to these salons and non-qualified people. I think what most people don't know, and unfortunately, doctors also don't make patients aware about this, is that there have been a lot of instances abroad, thankfully, not so many in India, that people have actually gone blind because of fillers being injected on the face. So, what people don't realize is that fillers are being injected into, let's say, any part of the face out here. There are certain blood vessels here. If it is injected too much or too quickly, the filler can enter into a blood vessel, and that blood vessel may get connected to certain vessels in the eye, and that can lead to blindness. So, doing fillers, cosmetic surgeons or cosmetologists who are doing fillers on a regular basis are trained to deal with this kind of eventuality. Okay, so we do have certain other medicines to counter this problem available at a clinic whenever we are planning a procedure like this, which may not be available, and the people at the salon may not be trained to deal with these eventualities. So and obviously, I mean, when you are having these kind of problems, time is of essence, so you need to act quickly. So if that is not done, and if from the salon the patient then goes to the doctor, or after about 3 or 4 hours, the damage is already done.
Doctor, right now since it's Corona and like you said, it's better not to go out, to take safety measures. Is this the right time to get surgeries done, or one should wait?
Uh, I think as of now, the government advisory is to open up things. They are recommending that we start kind of slowly get back to normalcy in life. So my suggestion, however, to my patient, now this is an entirely personal thing, is that I would tell them, if you really want to get something done, if it is a small kind of a procedure wherein your exposure in the hospital is going to be minimum, that means you can come in, get the procedure done, and by evening you can be back home. I would say fair enough. We've understood the process, we've understood how the virus is transmitted, and we have enough of measures to kind of prevent it. Now, although none of them are really, we can say, are 100% foolproof, but yes, we have some grip on the situation. Therefore, we can do it. But if you can wait and then get it done at a later stage, I guess that would be safer.
Thank
So,
you, doctor, for
in,
a lovely live session.
pardon?
I said thank you for a lovely live session and for
Oh,
answering this
thank you.
question.
Thank you very much for having me out here.
We have a few more questions left, but we are running out of time because it's
Oh, okay.
exactly 1 hour and some gives us to have a live session.
Wow.
So thank you so much for coming live, and we shall bother you
Thank you.
soon with a lot more questions.
I'm sure. Anytime. No issues. And I would love to answer them. So it's always better to clarify things and explain out things to people the right way.
Thank you so much, and thank you for making a change.
Thank you.